So before we jump into our teaching tonight, we're going to take just a couple minutes, and George Markey is going to come up, and he's going to tell us about two things we all love: ministry and coffee. So he's got a good report for us on something happening with coffee, right?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm George Markey, and I have a few slides here. I lived in Ukraine for 30 years, and because of the full-scale invasion, my wife and 6 boys, we evacuated on the second day of the war. Ended up in Budapest, Hungary. And we've continued to be involved with what is going on in Ukraine, and it's been just amazing. It's been horrible, of course, what's happened. We never expected it would happen, but it's been amazing to see the body of Christ come together. And the Calvary Chapel, in particular, the Calvary Chapels in Ukraine, came together along with many of you and in the States, and we've just seen, from the very beginning, just aid go in, evacuations, critical medicine all over the country. And just thousands of refugees going through the churches. I think Makacho, so Joel Brown and their team in Makacho, they've had, I think, at least 5,000 come through their church. They continue to house refugees. And some other things. Maybe go to the next picture. One thing there's a lot of things I could share, but just want to share about this. The guy on the right is Zhenya. I used to be the supervisor for Ukraine, but now he's the national director or national leader of Ukraine, and he's been phenomenal, just bringing all the churches together, about 15 churches, the pastors, making sure nobody feels alone. And we all thought the war was going to last a couple weeks, or many of us thought that. It's now well over a year. We're going into 2 years soon, and he's just made sure that as there's been just a lot of exhaustion, just a lot of things going on, making sure we stay connected, and helping also connect people who are wanting to help with those that have that need. So they do this. They're doing this online school ministry. They used to do it for their church, but now they've expanded it for not just Ukraine, but Europe, as many Ukrainians are scattered all over Europe. But need leadership training, just for the enormous needs and opportunities, because as we have millions of refugees outside of Ukraine, I think about a quarter of Ukrainians have been displaced. About half of the children have been displaced. Many have gone back. Many have gone further into Europe. But there's huge spiritual needs. And just so you know, that the part of the country that's most affected is the eastern part, which is the less religious part, probably the harder part of the country to reach spiritually. And now these people who have lost homes, lost cities, are coming through, and they're hungry. They're asking the big questions. They yearn for community and home and be able to resettle, be able to rebuild their lives. And so the enormous needs. So we're in Hungary and helping out in Europe, and just as one example, in a city in Hungary where these ladies all work in the factory, husbands are back home because they can't leave the country, because of war. So just sitting down with them, having tea and coffee, talking about, and we had been bringing aid to these. This is one example to this city, and we asked them, "Would you guys want to have some tea and coffee next time, and we could talk about God and read the Bible?" I said, "Yes, please." And so we got around just in tears. Just sharing what God is doing in their lives. Like we sometimes think, oh, they're unbelievers, what do they know? But they're sharing these testimonies that God is at work in their lives. And so we get to be part of that, enter that story. Maybe next one. And so now coffee, and you guys, you're hooked by the coffee. I use that as an opportunity to talk about what God is doing in Ukraine. But coffee, this is connected. So this guy, he's a friend of mine. He's a Christian, lives in Kiev. During the invasion, he had to evacuate their facilities because the Russians were moving in. So he took his wife, his 2 kids, and the next picture is his wife. He got them to safety. This is a story of many, many Ukrainians got to safety in Europe. He, of course, had to stay behind. They're now in Holland. They got to see each other this past summer. They hadn't seen each other this whole time. But he's back in Ukraine and restarted the business after a couple months so that he could provide for his family. Not only that, but the employees that he had. And he also, as a Christian, really wants to be involved. There's so many people, not just Christians, but Christians as well. They want to be part of the rebuilding of Ukraine. And it's just amazing to see his passion, to see that happen. And so I just had, I don't know, I think the Lord just led us together again, and I talked about, hey, we want to help Ukrainians, and we'd really love to see them be able to rebuild their lives, and what about we take your coffee, sell it in Hungary, maybe Europe, America, and he said, that's a great idea, so we started doing that. So we're now figuring out ways to ship it to Europe, ship it to America, and it supports him and what he's doing in rebuilding Ukraine is one small part, and also the proceeds go towards us as we work with refugees throughout Europe and throughout Ukraine. And so you get to be part of that. So downstairs they're already serving our coffee. And you can come and try it out or buy a bag. Talk to me if you're interested in selling this coffee in your church cafe, or maybe you have somebody that you know of that would want to sell it. Again, it's just one way we can help Ukrainians, and also just supporting discipleship, church planting, and aid as well. So I think that's about it. You can go to our website, bridgua.org, bridge, because we want to be a bridge for those that have a desire to help and the means to help those in need, and ultimately a bridge between people and God, that they might come to know the enormous love of their Father. So thank you for letting me share. You can see me. I would love to talk to you more about what's going on in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine. And there's other people like Joel Brown serving in Mukachevo. There's so many people. I mean, we're just one of many. But we have the privilege of being the hands and feet of Jesus in this time. So thank you for listening to me. Enjoy our coffee, please.
All right. Thank you, George.